Hello, I'm Annette Young and welcome to the 51%, a show about women reshaping our world. Coming up, the United States has the highest maternal mortality rate among industrialised nations. Our reporters head to Louisiana, where black women are 4 times more likely to die from pregnancy or childbirth complications than white women. Also, Me Too finally reaches Taiwan, where a growing number of women have been speaking out about their experiences working with sexual predators. And for the first time ever, the prize for the best pastry chef in the world has been awarded to a woman, and a French woman at that, Nina Metayer. But first, in the United States has the highest maternal mortality rate in the developed world. In 2021, an average of 30 women died for every 100,000 births in the country, the highest mortality figure since 1960. The death of African-American athlete Tori Bowie last April sending shockwaves across the nation, and as a result highlighting this major public health issue. Our team went to find out why it is that America scores so badly when it comes to maternal health.
Hi, Emily. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
It's the home stretch for Emily.
So here we are, 37 weeks.
Oh, I'm so pregnant.
Being pregnant in the United States is not always without danger. The world's leading economic power is also the developed country with the highest maternal mortality rate. In Louisiana, 39 women die for every 100,000 births. And the numbers are even worse for black women, who are 4 times more likely to die in childbirth or postpartum than white women. Shalon's organization was created to help them.
Some of the common situations that I see for our black mothers is a lack of, education, a lack of quality of care, the affordability, the access to care that many, don't have. But more importantly, just the outlook, the biases that are within the healthcare system that cause them to already have a disadvantage. So being a black woman, that's pregnant, you're already being judged, you're already being stigmatized.
Black women are often covered by Medicaid, which is health insurance for America's less fortunate, but it's not accepted everywhere and reimburses hospitals to a lesser degree than private insurance companies. As a result, these locations are often overwhelmed, and staff aren't always attentive to their patients' needs.
It's interesting because I have to advocate for myself every step of the way and advocate for my son every step of the way. My biggest fear is that they're going to circumcise him without my consent, and I'm just like, I really don't want that to happen. And then the birth plan, they're talking about inducing me, and I planned on a non-medicated birth.
1/3 of Louisiana's 64 parishes are medical deserts with no obstetricians or gynecologists. The state suffers from a lack of resources. It's the second poorest in the country. These are all factors that contribute to maternal mortality.
Most causes of death have to do with a lot of societal factors. There are things like drug use, there are things like motor vehicle accidents, there are things like homicide, and that's a lot harder to fix. When you have lack of access to care, not just for maternal care, but overall care, when you have a very poor state with people's social needs not being met, those barriers often combine to make things very, very difficult for women.
And things went from bad to worse after the country's Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, which guaranteed abortion rights nationwide.
There's no more elective abortions in Louisiana, but because of the vagueness and the way the law was written, there does not leave a lot of room for gray area, and much of this care is gray area. It has created a ton of confusion and fear, and that's on the part of the patient and the providers. They also certainly make it harder for folks to want to practice in this state. And when you already have some OB care deserts, it's really a recipe for disaster.
This legal ambiguity has put many women at risk. Nancy Davis was one of them. The 36-year-old found out she was pregnant in July of 2022. But after the first ultrasound, she was told her fetus had acrania, meaning that the baby's skull would not develop.
To make a painful story short, we were denied an abortion for a non-viable fetus. Initially, the hospital had agreed upon doing it for $6,000, but whenever we went back a few weeks later, they told us that we were denied because of the fetus still having a heartbeat and Louisiana abortion bans that were in place. So they pretty much wished us well.
Performing an abortion in Louisiana is punishable by up to 15 years in jail and a fine of up to $200,000. Nancy's doctors were so terrified of the repercussions that none of them agreed to perform the procedure. And yet, her fetus's condition was listed among the exceptions to the abortion ban.
I was 15 weeks pregnant. So Florida was out because of the gestational limit. North Carolina was out because I was too far along. So New York actually was accommodating. You know, their laws were clear and the doctors were confident in doing the procedure. It was actually one of the most toughest decisions I've ever had to make in my life. You know, but I knew I did not want to carry my baby, to bury my baby.
It's also a painful memory for Nancy's family.
She didn't tell me everything because she didn't want me to worry. But I knew, you know, the baby wasn't growing. She wasn't getting no bigger. Her stomach wasn't getting no bigger and stuff. I knew something was wrong.
Whenever I look at my kids, I just don't want them to go through that, to go through what I've been through. What does the future look like for them, for their reproductive rights? Yeah.
Nancy's story is not unique, but unlike her, many women don't have the means to leave their state. The overturning of Roe v. Wade has worsened access to health care for America's women, especially among ethnic minorities.
And 6 years after the Me Too movement first emerged in Hollywood, it's finally reached Taiwan. Female staff of the Democratic Progressive Party kicking off the first major wave, accusing powerful politicians of abuse. Accusations have since been levelled at celebrities, academics and doctors, and it's now becoming an issue in the upcoming presidential elections, as our team in Taipei report.
7 years ago, Zhe Junjiang was assaulted by a manager at a prestigious media outlet. In June, she wrote about her ordeal publicly on social media.
Did he violate my consent? Yes. He disregarded my will, displayed gender power, superiority, and forced me to answer personal questions.
Behavior that's all too common.
I'm still, from time to time, sexual harassed by older men. They will touch you and ask you some personal questions and make some jokes about sex.
It was this TV series that gave her the courage to speak out. In Wavemakers, a female politician promises justice to a member of her party who was assaulted. After it was broadcast, hundreds of men in positions of power were accused of similar, sometimes criminal behavior. At more than 40%, Taiwan's parliament has the highest proportion of female lawmakers in Asia. Fan Yun is one of them. In August, she helped strengthen a law on sexual harassment. But the politician warns significant change will take much more time.
Take me as an example. I have encountered verbal and physical sexual harassment from a legislator from another party. After 3 years of efforts, I won the case in civil court, in criminal courts and in the administrative body. And the party he belongs to still refuses to acknowledge the fact that he is an oppressor. And his party still nominates this court-certified sexual offender.
These students hope the social movement won't lose steam, especially now that there are survivors speaking out about their experiences on the streets and not just online.
What we need the most right now is the ability to empathize with victims of sexual harassment, because we still see people on the internet questioning whatever victims say.
One presidential hopeful announced that he would pick an actor as his running mate. She is a lead character in the hit TV show that helped launch Taiwan's Me Too movement. Political stunt or not, gender equality has now become an issue in this year's campaign.
And finally, here's a story for all you sweet tooths out there. A French woman, Nina Metayer, has become the first woman to win one of the world's top pastry chef awards, the first time ever in the competition's 92-year history. Also, by the way, in true French style, she doesn't believe in cutting back on the butter either.
A cordon bleu for all things patisserie. Only 35 years old, Nina Metayer has forged her own path in the male-dominated field of French haute cuisine.
When I arrived in Paris, it was hard to get doors to open, or not in the bakeries where I necessarily wanted to work, because 15 years ago it wasn't seen as a place for women.
But nothing would stand in the young chef's way. Top of her class at the distinguished École Ferrandi in Paris, she went on to work for some of the most exclusive Paris hotels and restaurants, before starting her own business, Délicaterie, in 2019.
I remember being told a number of times that you can't be a female chef, a mother and run a business, that it wasn't possible, but all those people who wanted to put me off only spurred me on.
And now that she's in charge, promoting women's talent is at the heart of the company's ethos.
The head chef is a woman, the sous chef is too, and the line cook is as well. It's inspiring. It's great the way that Nina has inspired women.
And Metayer's nomination as world #1 has put a whole new spotlight on her company and what women can achieve.
And that's it for this edition, but of course we'd love to hear from you, so do reach out to us via Facebook, Instagram or X, formerly known, of course, as Twitter. So until our next show, bye for now.